Welcome back, guys. This week we're going to create a record listing screen with a gallery. We're going to use search, sort, starts with, and also filter. We'll talk about and step through selecting a record and passing that record as a parameter to the next editing screen. We'll talk about delegation and all the issues that arise as we write our queries within PowerApps. Hopefully you're as excited as I am. Let's jump in. The first thing I want to show you is what we're going to end up at the end of this lesson. This is the search screen. This is the customer listing screen that we're going to build. We have column headings across the top. We have a search input field at the very top. And then we've got a button to add a new customer record. And then inside the gallery for each of the records, as we select through, we'll notice that as we change our selection, we've got a record selection button we can click on that will take us to the next screen. So this is what we're going to do. Let's get started. The first thing that we need to do is go over to SharePoint and create the lists that we need for this. So let's go do that. Let's go into the data sources. A quick and easy way to get over there is we click on an existing SharePoint list and go into edit data. It's going to bring up that SharePoint list. But what's nice about this, we could just, as it's loading up, we just click on site contents. Let's add a new list here. And this will be for customers. So we're going to use the TBL prefix like we did for the users. So we'll say TBL customers, click create, and there we go. I always like to show the ID in the list that I'm working with. There we go. The title, we'll actually use that in the same manner that we used for users. It could be their full name, it could be nicknames, it could be whatever that's separate from the first and last name. So we'll leave that as is. So let's add in a column. So we have a listing of fields. So first, last name, city, state, zip, phone, email address, notes, and then there will be a relationship to vehicles. So over here, we will add in first name, no spaces. Save. Last name. Very good. City. State. This little thing that pops up with SharePoint is a little annoying. There we go. Zip. And you know what sometimes I do? I just go into the list settings so I don't have to deal with that anymore. All right, there we go. So yeah, city, state, zip. Let's go on and add in phone number. Single line of text is fine. I'm going to scroll down and click OK. All right, let's go down and create column. And this will be for email address. So I'll just type in email. Very good. All right, let's create a multiple line of text for notes. There we go. Notes. What I do like to do for notes is I always make sure it's plain text. Within PowerApps, what I do is even if I wanted to have an enhanced rich text, is I'll still use plain text. And then I'll use the appropriate control for rich text or for HTML content within PowerApps. But I always leave this as plain text, because if you use the enhanced rich text, what I found is SharePoint likes to put in div tags around it. I like to have total control over the HTML going into that. So that's why. I'll click OK. So those are notes. All right, so we haven't created the SharePoint list for the vehicles just yet. And I am going to, let's handle that later on when we get to that. So let's just get some good customer data in here. So we've created the list. And if we click on this, this link here, there it is. All right, so let's go into the data sources. And we will add that SharePoint, yes. Okay, and we will go in and there's our PowerApps data and there is our TBL customers. We'll add that in. All right, so I'm gonna go back to tree view. There we go. Now let's log on as an office admin. I'm gonna type 0123, login. All right, so that takes us here. Now, as we know before, we can get back to, if we hover over this menu here, we have manage users. So if we click on that, we've got this screen, right? So let's, what we need to do is we need to have a screen that will list out all of the customers. And what I believe I'm going to do here is I'm just going to make a copy or duplicate this manage users screen, because there's some things that I like to use. Now, this previous screen that we had, well, if I just click on this one, I'll bring up the same information. Okay, so let's rename this to be customer listing screen. Very good. And I'm going to click on this screen and then back, and then we'll actually update this screen heading at the top. Very good. All right, so the screen that we're about to do for customers is going to be very different in nature from the users, because the users, we're going to have probably at most a dozen, maybe over time we might have a bunch of inactive users perhaps. We just have a handful of records there. For customers, we could have hundreds of customers or thousands per year. So we want to have a nice listing screen where they can browse, they can search for customers. So what we're going to do is we're not going to have an edit, a place to edit the record details on this screen. This screen will just be for listing customers. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'll actually be taking this information, these controls out here. So I'm going to just try to drag on all this. And you need to be careful when you do that, because if you use a spinner like I do, you notice that it selected everything, but it included that spinner. I don't want to delete that spinner. So I'm going to hold down Control on my keyboard, click on that. And now I'm going to make sure I just delete just those items. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this gallery take up the whole width of the screen, or just about. Very good. And instead of displaying users, I'm going to display customers. There we go. Now, a lot of these controls we don't need on here, like those little tags that we had from before, so I'm going to delete those. I don't believe that we will capture images for customers, because if you can imagine a customer coming in and somebody telling them, oh, hey, by the way, we want to take your picture. If you had some type of membership, when they had like a membership badge, I know when I go to the gym, I have, they took my photo. So when I try to scan my badge, when I go to work out, when I scan it, my photo appears, so they know that I am that person that I'm claiming to be with the badge. So that would make sense if this was like a gym membership. But for customers, for a garage, we don't need that. So we'll take that out. Now we do have this label here, title. That's going to be fine. What I would like to do is go over here and at least enter one new record. And so I'll type in my name here. Orlando, Florida. All right, put in my Orlando zip code. My phone number will be 999-867-5309. And my email address will be, let's make it, there we go. Great customer. And I will save. Now, what I just realized by entering that first record is there's one more piece of data that I wanted to capture. And perhaps you thought of it as I was entering all these things in here, which is we want the address, an address field that captures the address. Okay, so we're going here, address, do that. And let's go in here and say, you know, it's going to be at the bottom, isn't it? 101 Main Street. And I'm going to click out, and that data should be there. Very good. All right, now something that will bug me. So we've got this address at the end. If I go over here and I say hide show columns, I actually want that address to be right above city, state, zip. Hit apply. Now I don't know if that's actually going to change the order in which it doesn't. That's fine. But at least when I view it here. And just keep in mind, users aren't going to be going to this list. This is just for us. They're going to be using our PowerApps application to modify this data. So it's no biggie. So what we do need to do, however, is we need to go over here to the data source and we need to refresh customers. There we go. Very good. So now we have a record. Very good. Now I do see we have an error. Let's go investigate what's going on here. Okay, so this screen doesn't have any of the stuff we had on the other screen with the field, well, the add media button. So we're not uploading images there. And we're not dealing with any new records for that. So I'm going to take that completely out. Very good. What all type of information would we like to display on this, on the listing of customers? Well, I can tell you at the top, we probably want some controls at the top to either filter or to search this list. So I want to make some space for that. And I believe I've got this set up. Now, I was going to say, I believe I had this label set up so it follows this gallery. So let's actually name this gal customer listing. It's a good name for the gallery there. All right. So for this label, what I'm going to do is for this X, okay, that's set up right. That's good. So the Y isn't set up. So we'll use that gallery. We'll use the Y. Then we'll subtract the self.height. So what I'm going to do for this header right here, the very first piece of information is probably going to be their full name. So I'm going to type in full name there. That's going to be good. What I like to do when I set up a gallery like this, where you've got a listing of records and you've got columns of information. Now with the user screen that we did before, it was just a single column of information. You know, it had their names, had their photos, it had those little labels there. It wasn't very complex. It was very simple. Okay, so this is going to be a little more involved. So what I like to do is I like to tie the label down here that relates to the heading here at the top. I like them to be linked up in a certain way. So for example, here's a label here. And we probably don't want the gallery to be that large on the template size. We might want that to be maybe 50. So we'll do that. And you see this label automatically sized. So if we go in the height, it says parent.template height. That's good. Okay. So this is the label for that column. So I'm going to say LBL customer heading. And I'm going to go to this label and I'm going to tie certain properties to that label up there. For example, we got the Y. We're going to say that that label dot X. I'm sorry, I didn't mean Y. I'm talking about X. And then we're going to subtract the gallery. And the gallery, we don't have to reference the gallery by its name. We can simply say parent dot X. Okay. And then it gives us a value of 0 in this case. Okay. So now what I want to do is set up the width to reference that label. There you go. So now if I go into this label and I size it down, you'll see that this label has sized down as well. I don't want that to be center aligned. I'm going to make it aligned to the left. Very good. I like that. Okay. Let's go back over here. So what other types of information would we like to be displayed there? If I'm interacting with a customer that comes in and let's say they're already in the database, seeing their name, that's helpful. Maybe their phone number, that would be good. Maybe even the notes. So if there were some notes in like, hey, this customer, always wants a discount or is difficult, and those two things aren't related to each other necessarily, but just anything that the person that's dealing with the customers needs to know about that particular customer, whatever that would be. Okay, so I'm thinking their full name, their phone number, maybe even their email address, and the notes, and that might give us enough information to sort of fill up the screen here. So make this a little bigger, just in case somebody has a long name. Okay, and what I will do here is I will make a copy of this label, and this label up here has dynamic X and Y, so it's going to be right on top of that other label. So I'm going to use the right arrow to move that about. Very good. And you know what we could do? We could set this label to start where this one ends. Okay, so I'll grab the name of that one. And over here, I can say for the X, okay, the X of that one plus its width. There we go. And we can set this up to say phone. There we go. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a copy of this label here. Copy and paste that. I'm going to reference this label up here. Copy that. And then down here for the X, I can reference that one. There we go. And then for the width, let me make sure that's right. I think we're good. All right, so instead of referencing the title, let's reference the phone. There you go. I think I'm going to skip email. Initially, I was thinking it would be good to have here. I'm going to size this down. Let's leave it, give a little bit of space for like somebody has an extension or something. But sometimes notes can be a little long. So I believe what I'm going to do is have the rest of it just be notes. I doubt somebody's going to come in and say, oh, look me up by my email address. It'll probably be either their name or their phone number. In fact, what I might do is make this a little more narrow. There we go. Let's make a copy of this. And then I'll click on it, go into the X there. Instead of referencing that first label, I think it's heading 1. Let's reference that there. And the width, there we go. And then for the text there, this will be notes. Very good. And let's copy the name of that label. Copy and paste that label. And for the X, make that 2. There we go. And for the width, make that 2. Put the full width there. Now you gotta always keep in mind when you're dealing with a gallery, eventually there's going to be enough rows in the gallery to have a vertical scroll bar here on the side. So you always need to sort of keep that in mind, not put something right up against the side of the gallery. So instead of displaying their phone number, we'll put in here notes. Very good. All right. And I might even a long name. Yeah, maybe that'd be. And as we get more records in here, and if there's a complaint I can't imagine somebody's name would be all that long there. So we might have somebody's extension information in there, and there we go. And also, if the notes get incredibly long, it will do a word wrap. Something else we can do is if it goes longer, there's an overflow property of a label, and we can set that to scroll. when you do that, it moves it to the top like that. I don't know if you just noticed that, but I don't really care for that. So you know what I think we'll do? We just make it hidden. And if they want to read that, if they read the first part of the first 500 characters here, and they want to read more, they can just click on that record and it will go in and they can actually look at it on the next screen that will develop. So here we go. So the next thing that I want to do here is allow them to actually go in and select the record for an edit or to view all the full details. So let's add in, I don't know if I want to add an icon because icons are a little lame. I like to use a website. So a website that I like to use is loading.io. I've mentioned that before. I like to go in here and create my own. So I'll go into the icon library and let's type in something like item and see what comes up. Maybe select. And there's lots of websites out there like this. This just happens to be one that I like. Maybe something like an arrow. A lot of times people will use an icon within PowerApps that's like the a chevron, just a little like a less than, I'm sorry, like a greater than symbol. I do like this one here. Something like that, where it shows, okay, this is a row. Maybe the bracket, the square bracket is like, okay, this is a row. Let's go into it. Ultimately, what is the best option is what will make the most sense for the user. These double arrows wouldn't be bad, and you can choose the colors based on the color theme that you're using inside the application. So I think I'm going to go with this one. Well, let's see here. I'm thinking this one. Yeah, we'll go into that. And okay, so I need to pick 2 red colors because that is the theme here. So I'm going to scroll down, copy controls from here, and I believe what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this primary dark and the secondary dark color. So I set those up in the app on start. And if I go down here and go look at the theme that I have set up for this, it's the red theme here. So primary dark is this hex color. I want to paste that over in my Notepad++. And the other one was secondary dark, which is right there. So those are the 2 red colors that I want to use. So the dark one, let's just use always want to make the background pure white, which is 6 Fs. I turn transparency on. And let's see, the darker color, I'll make that. The other color, there we go. I like that. And you might think that an animation like this would look sort of cool, but it sort of gets old really quick. And starts to freak people out. So I like to turn the scale all the way up, and then I will save this and upload it. So let's save that as an asset. Haven't signed into this yet. Let me sign in, come right back. All right, I did save that graphic to my hard drive, and I clicked on this little upload button and I uploaded it. Now, I named the file before I upload it, so I'm starting to prefix all my graphics with GRA. So if I'm looking for a graphic, I just type in GRA, they'll all be listed there. Let us go back to the tree view and go back into the screen here, and let's add in an image. So insert an image. There we go. And let's make it a square. So the height is 50, the width is 50. Now we can make that dynamic by saying parent template height. There we go. And then we could set the width to be this self dot height. So it's always a square. All right, so for the image, we'll type in GRA, graphic, and we named it item, select. What do we call it? Row select. There we go. Look at that. All right, so we got that in there. Let's put this graphic over on the edge, but we allow for enough room for a scroll bar. Something else that I like to do is I only like to display this image on the currently selected row. So for this image, let's give it a meaningful name. We'll call it image row select. And we could make it customer. Since control names have a global scope, we might have another screen that has a row select and there would be a name conflict. So we'll add the moniker customer on there to avoid that collision. Okay, so we'll go over to the visible property and we'll say this item dot is selected. Very good. Now, let's say people want to do a search. What we need here at the top is just a search box. So let's go down and look at some colors we could use for a search box. This would be good, this little primary light gray color. But you know what I might use instead of that? Something that's already set up. Over here on Manager User Screen, we have this right here, this little rectangle. It already has a border set up, probably exactly the way that I'd want it. So I'm going to copy just that rectangle. We'll go back over to Customers here. I'll paste it. Okay, and we will set this up here. There we go. And let's add over. What we need is a text box and a label. Okay, so let's do that. Paste that here. And we'll call this customer search. Make this 200. And let's make it right aligned. And maybe 180 or 160, maybe 170, no, 160. Go. Now the question is, this bar here is probably, like, we don't need it to be that tall. So it's at 63. How big is this text box? It's 40. Let's maybe make this 50. That's probably a little 55, perhaps. Let's go with 60. That will be good. All right, so let's line up this control with this control. Okay, both are selected. I want to make sure it's, here we go. You see that little dotted line that PowerApps gives us? It's helping us out here. That's good. Okay, I might leave it like that. And I might make this a little wider, maybe 400. So as the application goes along, we might have a need to have a drop down here. We could have a drop down here that would list all the surrounding cities or zip codes, and we could filter it based on that. That would sort of be cool. Somebody could come in and they come in with the name John Smith. Okay. Well, you probably search for him by phone number. That would be unique. So you could do that. But, you know, just thinking about different types of applications that you would have a screen like this. in some cases, you might have 15 different search criteria up here. The stakeholders for the project, maybe they have, it's in the requirements that they need all kinds of different search fields up here. As you work in the application, you'll either realize or be told that there needs to be some more filtering up there. And as it's used or people start to look at it, that stuff will come up. So it's good that we've got a little bit of screen here. I don't know that it would look nice or be functionally beneficial to have it take up the full width. I'm a little tempted to, since there's nothing there, but I think I'm just going to leave it. Another idea, I'm just sitting here thinking, we could have a year drop down, and we could filter this based on the customer records which have been either created or modified in that year. So if this garage has been open for 15 years, in 15 years there might be 5 or 10 or 100 John Smiths, but chances are if you just show all the John Smiths that came up that have been modified or created in the last year, perhaps that will be the one that you're interested in. Just another idea. Okay, so let's give this text box more meaningful name, txt customer search. Very good. And let's not default it really to anything. Okay, that's good. And could put a little hint text in here, customer name or phone number. Something else that I like to do is add a icon that will cancel whatever they typed in there. So let's look at the height of this text box. It's 40. So let's click on that icon and change that to 40. Oh. Okay, and move it to the side there. All right, let's add some padding to this. That looks good to me. Let's give it like a light gray, maybe a darker gray. There we go, like that. We'll call this ICO for icon, customer search, cancel. Okay. And what we'll do when that is clicked on is we'll reset this text box. We'll get the name of the text box, and then we'll go over to that icon, and for the action on select will be reset. We'll use the reset function, and we'll pass the name of that control in there. Very good. Okay, so let's say they haven't typed anything in this text box yet. We want this icon. Well, let's go get we already have the name of the text box on the clipboard. So what we'll do, say if the length of the text property of that text box, if it's 0, we'll say icon.search. Otherwise, we'll use that cancel badge. There we go. So see how that looks like it belongs there. Now if we start to type in there, you get the X, and you just click it and it resets it. All right, I'm going to hit Control S. Remember guys, save early, save often. So I'm a little weird about spacing and alignment with my screens. What I like to do is I like to add in rectangles and set these rectangles up to be something like maybe 20 by 20. Okay. You see how it's nice how I've set all this, I've set all these things to dynamically move based on this gallery. So it makes it really easy to move things around here. For example, this guy, this text box, and this label, and this rectangle. they're not dynamically moving around in relation to each other. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a group out of those. I'm going to go over to my tree view so I can see what I just did there. And I'm going to move that. Move them as a group. There we go. You see how it lines up everything there? Now, something else I can do is I can move this down to this spot. Move this up. Let's make that like 310. You know what I did? Now look at this. It's annoying. Okay, I'm going to click on this group 2 that I created a little while ago, and that looks good. Okay. Very good. I'm going to, well, you know what? I'm going to move this down. Move this gallery up against that rectangle. And now what I want to do is move this rectangle up and look at this. Yeah, that looks good. Very good. Well, is it? No. So this rectangle needs to come out a little more. There you go. And that should look good. Very good. All right. Now, something else that I do, I've got this little debug function that will make some things appear, disappear based on if I want to see debugging information. Only testers can see that. Is I don't like to delete stuff if it's been useful in the past. So I'll say var show debugging and then turn that debugging feature off, and now I won't see it unless I need it again. All right, so the next thing I would like to do is enter a little bit of sample data here. So I'm going to implement the search feature. Now, right now, it is just looking at TBL customers. I'm going to quickly put in the search feature, but I want to be able to test it as soon as I put it in. So I'm just going to go over here to the SharePoint list and enter a bunch of data, maybe 20 rows or at least 10. And I'm going to use that website that I've mentioned in the past, which is homepage.net/name generator. So just to show what that looks like, homepage.net/name generator. There should be a link in the video description, so you don't have to type that out. Okay, so I'm gonna pause the video. I'm gonna do all that, and then I'll come back. All right, so we have some good test data here, and just to let you know, I've got 100 records in here, and let's scroll around here and actually show you. Look at that. There we go. So I dynamically populated this. I went to that website, fake name generator, and what I did was I went down here, I created a new screen, and I pasted in this text box, and I used a button to take out, or to take all the values, split them, put them into a context variable. And then for this gallery, I set the items to be this text. So the split will actually create a table value. So I took all that, and then I put in a button here to test out a single patch function, to do an insert, to create a record. And so this first label here, it takes, so this Victor Brown here, it takes out those extra spaces in the middle. Okay, and displays it in that label. Okay, and this next label down, I did a bunch of math based on the current time, multiplied a bunch of values together, and even used the milliseconds in here. And then I formatted some text, and what I did was, I grabbed the label the two label values. So you got label 12 and label 13. And I constructed like a Gmail email address out of their first and last name. Okay. And then I wrote a button, I put in a button here that did a for all, and I pasted the code over that I had. I used an alias here of my, and I did my dot to reference all the labels. And I clicked it, and it just took like 10 seconds and inserted those 100 records. So hopefully you guys find that interesting. It took me a few minutes to do that, but hey, we got some good test records. I didn't have to do any data entry, so that was nice. All right, so let's go back to customer listing screen. There we go. And you always want to make sure this menu's on top. There we go. And then we'll go find the spinner, make sure that's on top. All right. Now that we've done that, now we can work on this search text box at the top. Okay, so we have a good name here, TXT customer search. One question that I'll typically have for customers, clients is, how do you want this sorted? And I would say in this context here, you probably want it sorted by that title. But before we sort, let's actually use search. There we go. Things are a little slow right now for some reason. All right. So we're going to search, and we're going to search with the value, or the text value out of the text box. And then we need to specify the columns, all the columns we want to look in. Okay, so we also have the phone. And why not also the notes? It's giving us a delegation warning. All right, let's go into settings. So we can handle up to 2,000 records. So this has already been set up. I believe the default's 500. So if you want to work with the most records as you can inside of PowerApps, you want to increase that to 2,000. And there's some things that we can do to get around this delegation problem, because I'm sure we're going to have more than 2,000 customers at some point. So we definitely want to write this query that it would handle that. Using the function StartsWith is a good way to get around that. So let's format the text here. So we're doing the search, and something we could do is we could do an if the length of the text box .text equals 0, we could just return TBL customers. Just return all the records. Okay, so let's see what that looks like. There we go. So we got our data. So if there's nothing in there, it's going to give us all. Now if we type something in there like, what about John? Joe? Okay, that's good, huh? Exit out, gives us everything. Okay. So I just want to show you guys a few ways of writing a query for something like this. We definitely need to address the delegation problem here. Before I get to that, so I want to show you I can actually wrap a sort function on the whole thing, and we'll base that on the title. And we'll click on Format Text. Make it look all pretty. So the search will work on both. Let's see what the notes look like. You see that? It makes me want to make the font size a little smaller. And then also for the notes, make it so that 1.3, so it's spaced out a little more. If there's a carriage return in there. Okay, there we go. To get around this delegation, perhaps a better way of doing this is to use StartsWith. And instead of doing a search here, we could do a filter, and we'll say starts with and let's take these, put them down here for now. You know what we should do is, instead of looking at title, we should be looking at first name, last name. Yeah. So we'll do starts with that, or the last name starts with that. Or phone, although they need to remember to put in the parentheses in the text box. All right, so I'm gonna take that out. So let's look for let's see some names here. Let's look for, okay, here we go, yeah. Let's look for all the numbers that start with parentheses 0. Okay, let's look for Smiths. It's only one Smith, that's not bad. What about Darren? There you go. Okay, so I'm satisfied with that. If somebody comes into the service center, they're going to know their first, last name, and what their phone number starts with, or their full phone number. And for the purpose here, this is going to serve it great. If you wanted to use search, you might run up against that delegation problem unless you filter down the result set into something that you know will be under 2,000. For example, I mentioned having a drop down at the top with all the years. So if you wanted to search on a customer name and you wanted to look for any customer that was added or modified in the selected year, that would probably filter it down to under 2,000. But you need to look at the volume for that business and make sure that that's actually true, that there's under 2,000 customers. But so there are you filter by the month, or so there's different things you do to filter down, and then you can use that search on top of that. So you could do that, but for our purposes, this works out great. Okay, so just to review the query that we have set up for this, we have this sort at the end. Another way you can really help with the delegation is you can nest filter functions, and you put the innermost filters that will filter it down below that 2,000 as we were just talking about. And the outermost filters, you can put the ones that might have the delegation problems on the outside, as long as the inner filters will filter it down below that 2,000. That's what I do. This works for this scenario, so I'm going to leave it as this. And I think at this point, we are done with this screen. Let's add another screen that will have some edit fields. And I'm going to take this screen because it has some edit fields. It's got some buttons and stuff. I'm going to duplicate this one. And the reason I'm going to do this in order to finish this customer listing screen is I want to get that get the icon that we have in the row, that ghost that's supposed to navigate to the edit screen. I actually want to get that to work. So, all right, from here, we're going to say edit user viewer edit customer. I would recommend you standardize on the name of the screen. Like if they're all going to have, a lot of the screens that I have, I actually put the word screen in the name of the screen. And if I start to do that, I want to make sure that that's consistent all the way through. So I'm going to add the word screen. Sometimes I'm tempted to leave off the word screen if the screen name is just getting really long. Okay, so I'm going to leave that in there. Okay, so we're going to modify this a lot in a moment. But before we do that, we're going to get the name of that screen. I'm going to copy that. Okay, and over here, we're going to go here, and on the select, we will do a navigate. Do a single quote, paste, single quote. Now, by the way, I was tempted, and perhaps you're tempted, to leave out any spaces in screen names so you don't have to use these single quotes. But if you look it up, it's actually it's listed as a best practice to actually have spaces in there and to have screen names very human readable, because those with disabilities might use screen readers. It's much easier for it to read off the name of a screen if it has these spaces in there. So just wanted to mention that. My favorite transition to use is the fade. What if we just say fade? It likes that. Okay. All right, let's pass the current, say record. We'll say this item. That will pass the currently selected galleries record and throw it into that context variable that will be set up for the next screen. So we don't have to mess with any global variables and have a bunch of global variables sitting out there. So we've got that. Something that I like to do as well is have another context variable called new record, set that to be false. Because if we're on the screen, we're selecting one. You know, something that we should do here is if we want to add a new customer, we should have a nice little button. Let's use that button there. Okay. There we go. We'll say new customer and make sure that's 200. That would probably look better. And maybe say add new customer and make it a little bigger. 220 looks nice. Now if we add this, okay, everything's looking good. Bug. All right, do Control S. Okay, so for this button, we're going to do something similar to what we have in this little icon here. Please don't freeze up on me. Come on. I'm clicking. Okay, and here, we're not going to use the spinners. We're going to navigate. And what I like to do is if it's a new record, if you want to, instead of using the blank function and putting a null value into a variable that's supposed to hold a record, I like to say defaults and say TBL customer. And this new record will be set to true. So that other screen, if this thing is set to true, then it knows it's a new record. So, all right. So let's run this. We have Adam. We click on this. Now this is going to change a lot. So for this screen, I think it's good for now. We have a listing of our customers, and it's going to list up to 2,000. Our gallery will go and get 100 records. It will get more if you set up this wrap count to be a higher number, and it has to display more than 100 at a time, and at that point it will go and get more than 100. But let's say we've got over 2,000 customers. I mean, you're just going to see the first 2,000, you know. And really, is there any reason for a user to be looking at over 2,000 records at once? If they are, it's either some wild requirements, and in that case, you'd have to set up some collections that will hold more than that 2,000, and go and query and get different result sets and merge them together. So that's one option. But what I would suggest is that you just need to engineer the application better, so you don't have to do something like that. So we're showing records, we can search, we can add a new, so the add new and the select go to the same screen, and that screen that it goes to is Alan Thompson, which is who, there we go. So it's doing that correctly. So it looks good to me. So the next screen to work on is this customer edit screen. Hey guys, thanks for sticking around. I'd like to show you where we're going next for this customer edit screen. As you can see on the screen here, we have the listing screen, but when we click on it and select, I'll show you what the screen's going to look like. It's going to look like this, where we've got all the customer data on the left side. We have the vehicle information in the middle and on the right. So I just wanted to show you where we're going next week. See you then.
If you found anything in this video helpful, we would really appreciate you click on that like button. If you want to get a solid foundation on PowerApps, there are 10 things you must know. Lucky for you, my husband wrote the book. We are actually offering it for free. Click on the link below to download your free copy today. And if you want to connect with us or work with Darren directly, visit our website. The link is below. Thanks.